But there ain't nothing I can do about that. So this one's called Patrick Laurent from France, from the Netherlands. What do you think about internet these days? Like, nobody can be nice no more. People head to forums and don't read article titles, but only read the reactions you say something offensive on it. Please share your thoughts. Hope to see video soon. Greetings from Holland. Cool. Hello, Patrick Laurent. And you look like a Frenchman too. Have the facial structure of a Frenchman for sure. Okay. Check it out. I have my French headband. Okay. No, that's like America from the 70s. Okay, so what do I think about internet? Sorry if I'm a little bit rusty. What do you think about the internet? Okay, well, let me start out by... I start talking and I start yawning. Woo! I haven't yawned for months. Oh, it feels pretty good to yawn. Okay, so... oh yeah, so what do I think about the internet? Okay, so my experience with the internet is me and my research, so that doesn't have anything to do with society. My experience with social internet, well, it's limited. I don't read the news or anything. I only watch the Young Turks videos. It's enough news for me. And so I know that what's going on in the world, and people are really dumb. The Republicans are, it's so clear the Republicans are the guys who make all these laws getting rid of regulation, and then they turn around and they try to regulate the shit out of everybody and like social stuff, but then they try to over-regulate. So if you try to make a law to regulate big companies to help make the rich people not so goddamn rich, as though you should even have to explain why you should do that. You know why rich people shouldn't be so rich? They go, oh no, don't let the government in. The government's trying to take over. Hey, let's legalize abortion. It's like, what? It's like they're turning it around. And that they can get away with that, and that all of the Republicans win anyway. Tells you that people are here, and then that people, don't want to legalize weed, and we want to send to the war in Iraq, and all the people hating the Muslims, and all the trolls you get on the internet, on the YouTube. You know from that evidence that people are dumb in this planet. You're living in a planet full of stupid people. Doesn't mean that you have to identify with those people. Just pretend like you're like an alien from space, or you're like somebody from the future traveling back in time where all the retards live. And then think to yourself, well, why would I want to travel back in time where all the retards live? You must have like a big ego, and you want to be like smarter than everybody. So it's like you're cheating. It's like you're showing up at the race and injecting yourself with your own blood and EPO and everything. That's what being a time traveler is kind of. It's kind of like you're cheating. No, but that's a negative way to look at it. A positive way is you can be a teacher and you can invent shit because they're never going to invent it. Bring it to the stupid people. Like even my website's developed enough, but people look at it and they can't see because it's not totally done. So anyway, there's lots of reasons to know that people are dumb. So yeah, like nobody can be nice anymore. Did people used to be nice on the internet? I think people are getting nicer. I mean, in my experience, people are nicer now than they were. Like in the past, I used to have so many haters. And now I have the same kind of haters still, but I also have fans. Back 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have any fans. I'd have like 1 fan, 2 fans, and everybody else were haters. So to me, it seems like the internet's a lot nicer because I've got Patrick Laurent, I have Rod Staudinger, I have Air Handler, and then I have the freaky people who like me too, like Ron, was that his name? Anyway, yeah, so, oh shit, I just lost where the question was. Sorry, let me back up here. Okay, so people head to forums and don't read article titles. Ha, that's funny, because I noticed that on my YouTube, people don't read my YouTube titles. They like comment on something and they ask me a question or they say something and it's like, But the answer to your question's in the title. You know what I mean? Or it's like, well, that's not what the video's about. Read the title. You know? But, yeah. Okay, well, let me tell you what I think about this, okay, in a broader perspective. But let me finish what you say here. People head to forums and don't read article titles, but only read the reactions to say something offensive on it. Please share us your thoughts. If you want to use proper English, you say please share with us your thoughts. But if you want to sound cutesy, I'm sure saying that in a French accent is cutesy. Okay, hope to see the video soon, bud. Greetings from Holland. Right. Okay, so, okay, yeah, so let me give you my idea about this broader subject. Basically the subject of people being dickheads on the internet. Okay, well, do you know what the word mean means? Like you're being mean? Mean means like insulting, you know, not productive to the conversation, just trying to make you be quiet so that I can, or make you do what you I want you to do just for my force. So it's kind of like something bad people do, stupid people do. Mean. Okay, well, do you know what mean means in the world of mathematics? It means average. And that's what mean meant back in the day, hundreds of years ago. It means just average. You would say like the mean people, not like the angry people who aren't nice to you, but the normal people. Same thing with another word. Rude. Rude. The word rude. Back 500 years ago, the word rude just meant normal, regular, you know. So if I were to say to you 500 years ago, you're being rude, the person would be like, well, of course, I'm a rude person. And, you know, it'd be like you're being so normal. So over time, now rude has morphed into being crude, being, you know, like, what is rude? Like spitting on the ground. You know, if I introduce you to somebody, I don't shake your hand, or I kind of like this. Well, that's what untrained people are. Just studying the meaning of the word, that's what poor people, the poor classes, you know, like the people who take care of pigs and the goat herders and stuff, you know. I'm not all of them, because if you're smart, you can make swine herding a nice profession. But for the most part, those people, you know, I think there was society for a really long time was set up socially. The natural social order of things had been set into place. Kind of like if you get like a big dirty bucket filled with lots of crap and you just like set it there, over time all the layers will be formed and you can see this is a layer of this is a layer of this and above. That's kind of like what society was for a long time. It had found its niche and people naturally floated up or down in society based on the meritocracy. You can make a lot of arguments against that, but it goes into another subject. So, for the purpose of this argument, so back in the past, you know, like being the king, you know, you wouldn't think that the king was bad. Nowadays, people are like, fuck the king, you know, goddamn rich people and this kind of stuff, Illuminati. But back then, up until like the mid-1600s, they would try to get kings to touch you, and they thought if a king touched you, your sickness would be healed. So, you know, people didn't hate the king. They thought king was like a god on earth. They loved their king. You know, English. You see it with English now. The little princess is born, and everybody's like, yay, Princess Diana dies, and everybody's sad, you know. They used to love that. So being rich and poor and all the social class wasn't something that people felt unnatural about until there were times of revolution for the various reasons. But for the most part, people kind of just, you know, like if one guy took over some other guy in a war, it didn't mean anything to the peasants. The peasants would just pay their taxes to the new guy, and it would be the same taxes because he would just do the same thing, do it the same way as everybody else. So basically, so for all this time, the only voice that you would ever hear that would make itself out into the rest of society, you know, to be the voice of the masses, would be smart people, you know. And not just smart people, but smart people at their very smartest. Because it's their writings. It's like, you know, Schopenhauer or whatever, Martin Luther sitting around in the middle of nowhere, or you know, where all he does is study books, because he's like a monk, or they just read all the time, and then they think their thoughts out really well, and they write a book down. And even then, they don't sound all that smart. So you've got the cream of the crop, and you know, and in a way, the cream of the crop, the smart people writing the books of philosophy and religion, all that kind of stuff, and inventing things, they are the voice of the masses, and that the masses say, "Oh yeah, that," and they agree with it, and then that's how the person becomes famous, and it becomes, you know, a famous book, and that's the voice of the masses. But that's not to say that the masses were smart enough to say it. I mean, a lot of them were, but most people, if you were to like give them the microphone, you know, they wouldn't be able to string a coherent sentence together. And you see that on YouTube and stuff. And so I think that's what we're seeing on the internet, is because all of a sudden we have the rude people and the mean people and the normal people thrown in the same mixing pot with everybody else, the smarter people who in the past were the only people being heard. And they're also, and so people are not practiced in speaking. You know, it's like all of a sudden handing a car to a 3-year-old who doesn't know, you know. And you know, and we do have new people who are born, you know, like the people you comment, it's like you could say, well, what does it matter to them? They weren't around then anyway, you know, and people are growing up with the technology. They should be able to communicate just fine. You know, how does the past doesn't have any influence on the present, but I think the past does have influence on the present. I think because I believe in reincarnation, I believe that we're all take a really long time to evolve, and so 500 years ago, the people who are alive on the world then are the same people who are alive on the world now. They were just in different bodies, and so the people who are alive in the world today are roughly in the same spiritual development as we were 500 years ago. We're just a little bit more, because we're a few lifetimes ahead and we're smarter and all that. But we're not, it's not like we all of a sudden we become super geniuses just because, you know, when our souls are all advanced and we can communicate two-way conversations just because we have the technology to do it. We kind of have to catch up with the technology. I read a book called... I can't remember what it's called, but it was a history book, and the guy was saying something interesting. He said, inventions come along, but then people don't use the invention for 100 years because they're not ready for it, you know, and a lot of times people rebel against the invention. When they invented the Jacobites, you know, when they invented like the cotton threshing machine, you know, the rich guy would buy a bunch of cotton threshing machines, keep the price the same, fire all the people who he used to hire to make it, and then it would, you know, make the money go to the rich people. And instead of going, oh, we need to make regulations, you know, to make it so that the poor people can operate these things too, and it can spread the money around. People are dumb and they just go, cotton gin is bad, you know. It's like, and nowadays people be like, are you fucking kidding me? We're not gonna fucking outlaw automobiles just because we can have machines build them, you know. But people do that, and they do it over and over again. And you know, they were even doing recently with Spain with the thing that shakes the apples out of the tree, and you can go on and on. Oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so when I get into the examples like that, I'm always dangerous to me when I'm high because I can't get myself back on track. So, but yeah, people don't like. They can't take advantage of inventions so easily. Right away. And so now we have this invention of the internet and speaking your mind, but people aren't used to the idea of actually doing that, obviously. And I am surprised, man, a little bit, how long it's taking people to become unanonymous. You know, people have to be so goddamn anonymous. And if you do get out there and talk, you're like people, yeah, like you say, people try to say something about you to make you appear stupid. And it works, though. See, that's the thing. See, that's the way people argue, and they think they're arguing, but they're not. People want to like knock your argument. So the easy way, and it's the dishonest, cheating way, is instead of argue your argument, you attack the messenger. You just make the person appear to be stupid, and then people are not going to believe their argument because they're not going to have respect for the person. And then just by saying stuff like that, other people just believe it, even if you say it enough. I'll give an example. I typed my name to see if anybody did a video about me. And I had made videos, everybody stopped making videos about me. I love when people make videos about me. But George for Title did a video about me, and I read the comments. And there's that dude, Dale, was back. He's like my #1 troll. Talking about how like I use people because I borrowed money from my family. And then we had comments from other people below him who's like my fan. He's like, yeah, I love Kyle. He's great. Yeah, but that sucks about how he uses people. And it's like, wait, do you just believe that guy just because he said it and other people said it and now you believe it? Like, how the hell does me borrowing money from my family make it so I'm using them? You know, like, were they really going to make that much more in interest? You get like 0.5% interest from the government. It's not like it's any hide off of their skin off their hide or whatever. You know, like what? Because I borrowed money from my family? Like, what the fuck? So all of a sudden it's common knowledge. So that's how that works. It works though. That shit works. Fucking works. You just say it enough about somebody. Like the rats. You know, Jews are rats, Jews are rats, Jews are rats, Jews are rats. Like that thing with Jesse, what was that guy? Jesse Ventura and Chris Kyle saying how he punched Jesse Ventura. And they spread it all over the media. If Jesse Ventura hadn't fought back, everybody would think that Chris Kyle punched Jesse Ventura. Even if Jesse Ventura said he didn't get punched. Everybody believed that he did because it's said. Because that's how people are. It kind of reminds you of, if you watch like historical movies, like the Tudors and the, you know, and then you have like the king and he gets really mad and or the lord or whatever, and then he talks to the peasant. And he's all yelling at the peasant, and then he's like, okay, be gone with you. And then the peasant leaves and doesn't talk back. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's accurate representation. The peasants didn't have anything to say, but they're used to it. Like, they don't have anything to say, but they also don't even understand the concept of it. Like in Chile, I was there 5 years. You would ask the poor people, those are the people who I hung out with, my wife and her family, why stuff is, you know, and they would just be like, oh, it is because it is the way it is, you know, or they made this law because of this. And they don't ever ask the reason why, because it's so out of their hands. Why even bother to ask why? And it's, you know, it's kind of like why people don't vote. You know, if it's so out of my hands, why do I vote? So it's kind of like that. I think people. Holy shit! Where did that come from? People just. Oh yeah, how people communicate. Yeah, because it works, man. If you don't like what somebody says, instead of argue their point. See, people, we don't understand the concept of the two-way conversation. Like, when I get around to describing myself on my website, one of the main ways I'm going to describe myself is as a two-way conversationalist. The kind of person who, if you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. And then if I ask you a question, it's because I'm expecting an answer. It's called a two-way conversation. People don't understand the concept of two-way conversations, and so that's how people can get away with you know, just attacking messengers with changing subjects and straw man arguments and all this kind of stuff, man. And if you have if you go 2 or 3 rounds with somebody, then they give up on you. And see, the internet is not a good place for those kinds of people because it kind of exposes who you are. Because you always have enough time to respond to somebody. You know, I mean, if you don't have time to respond to them now, you can respond to them later. And I forget to respond to people a lot. If I don't respond to them right away, I forget. But that's still not a good excuse. You can always respond to somebody. If you don't want to respond to somebody, it's because you don't have anything to say. And that's why people stay anonymous, because they know that they're afraid that if they actually express themselves with somebody they disagree with, that they'll lose the argument, and that's going to make them appear stupid in general, and then that's going to make them actually feel stupid. But if you're arguing somebody, isn't that because you think you're right and they're wrong, meaning you're smarter than them, meaning you're going to win the argument? You know what I mean? So yeah, anyways, that's as far as I can go, because I don't read forums, I don't do forums, I don't do the internet. All I do is the historical audiobooks, YouTube, Young Turks. I'm not social at all on the internet. I don't even look at, Facebook or anything like that. So, but I mean, this is as much as I can relate to what you're saying. Yeah, how people just are just lazy the way that they communicate. We're also not taught to communicate. I remember in school, I was never asked to talk or speak or do anything. I was just asked to sit there and shut up. And so if you grow up when your brain is forming and you're not exercising it, by the time you're grown, a lot of people, they can't ever develop it. Like how people can learn English really quickly when they're young, but they can't when they're older. I think it's the same thing with communicating. You could learn a concept of the two-way conversation, but only if you learn it when you're young. You can't all of a sudden teach a 30-year-old the concept of a two-way conversation. They're not going to get it. And even if they do get it, they're not going to go for it because it's not worth it, because it's easier to win the argument or feel like you win the argument by just saying something offensive and then leaving. Because that's kind of how real life, I guess how rude, poor, stupid people feel like in real life. As long as you get your last word in before you run away, then you won, or something like that. Where somebody smarter knows that saying something doesn't mean anything, so why bother fucking saying it? Unless you're going to do it publicly. But if you're going to do it publicly, you have to fucking do it. Like, you have to actually do it. And then you have to jump in. You can't do it and then delete your whole channel and then delete your picture and then delete the argument, because then you're not going to do it again, because you're going to know that you're probably wasting your time if you think you're going to delete it later anyway. But the way I see it, if there's a bunch of stupid people in the world, you can look at that as an advantage. You don't have to get all bummed about it. You can actually get happy about it, because there's always going to be stupid people. There's always going to be wars. There's always going to be stupid people. And I'm not talking about this planet. I'm talking about in existence, in the whole universe. There's always going to be stupid people. And wars, and animals eating animals and animals starving to death and this and that. It's part of existence. So just because you live in a world full of stupid people doesn't mean that it's your fault that they're stupid. All that means is that here's your opportunity to be smarter than everybody. Right? So now I can get up there and upload videos on the internet, making fun of all of the Republican politicians who do all this stupid stuff, like how the Young Turks do, like that's, and then you can make money with it, and you can use your brains, or like me, the way I use my brains is by creating educational stuff on the internet. And if people don't latch onto it, and think that it's stupid, I can use that to make myself feel smarter. I can be like, oh, it's beyond your breeding level then. I'm so smart. So much smarter than everybody. It's cool to be smug to yourself as a fun way to internalize it and make it fun. It doesn't mean you have to go and act all smug to people when they're around you. Just snap back, default back to smug whenever you're reminded how stupid people are in the world, Anyways, I think I've babbled on enough about this one. Okay, take care. Okay, hello. So this is part 2 of the video request from I can't remember who. Oops, because I forgot to go there on my page. About why are people so rude and stuff? Why can't people communicate so respectfully and thoroughly and intelligently on the internet and in forums and comment sections and YouTube and stuff? And I was talking about the differences in all the different social classes and stuff, and I wanted to continue talking about that, because that was just the introduction, and then I forgot and turned the video off, and then I realized later that I'd come across as a total asshole if I just uploaded that, because then it'd be like I'm a classist, because I didn't want to come across like, you know, the higher classes are smarter than the lower classes. It's just that their jobs are different, and you're good at what your job is, you're good at what you do all day long, and the lower classes, back in those days, minded their own business and only talked to their family members about the, you know, small things, house stuff. Whereas the upper classes were the ones who had to interact with all these different people. And you have to, and so it turns into a whole skill set of how to interact with people in a way where you can get what you want out of people without offending them, because you want to keep everybody on your side. And so it just turns into, just being diplomatic and you know, I guess the bad term would be fake. Just act fake and just act the act, you know, the protocol. Whereas poor people who don't have the practice would just be more blunt and real. And so basically that's what I'm saying. I just think people haven't, and because they're not used to also of talking about details and stuff, you know. One thing you notice about poor people in third world countries is if you were to ask, or younger people even, you know, or less professional people, or, you know, like a poor person in a third world country, if you ask them how far it is to the light, they would say, oh, very far, oh, not so far. They wouldn't tell you 50 meters, 100 meters, 2 miles, you know. Even if you ask them what direction the north is, they wouldn't even know. They don't know stuff like that. They don't know numbers. So it's just a lack of sophistication, because you just don't need to talk about that stuff, you know. You just don't need to, so you don't have the practice. So if you've never seen it, you can't do it. And so, yeah, I think that, so all these people with who've never had the sophistication of the communication now have the technology in front of them, and they don't know, they don't know how to you know, use it. They can't take themselves seriously enough to communicate on a professional way. And it becomes very apparent if you actually invite somebody like that to an actual video. I was taught, for example, and I hope I'm not being too, you know, betraying trust or whatever, but I was talking to my roommate about 24-hour mountain bikes, and he thinks that 24-hour mountain bikes suck, but he's only ridden one once. And so I was like, and he's all confident about that, like he knows what he's talking about. And then I did the YouTube video where I talked about it, which you can see. Totally different personality, totally different attitude. Once you turn the camera on, people think a little bit more before they talk. And so, but I think people know that. That's why they stay anonymous. Because then, but it's, you know, like I said before, it's not in the education system. If it was in the education, but we didn't have the technology back then. When most people alive now, or, you know, were in high school, they didn't have the video cameras. And I guess we have it now, but I don't think we're still not utilizing it like we could. But so if we just need some people to show everybody else how to, I guess, talk and communicate in an in-depth way. Well, I'm going to go do a video about that. Okay, so peace out.